This is Single Status. Lovely people, welcome back to the Single Status podcast. This is your host, Samantha Vigneault. And before we jump into the episode, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, give me a 5-star rating because I know that's what you want to do. And I would love to hear your feedback, would love to hear your thoughts on all of our episodes. And this is really how we also expand. When you subscribe, when you like, when you follow, that is how we expand to more people and reach more people. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where you can get updates on everything that's going on with our community, with the podcast. And that is a way that we can keep in touch. Okay, so I am super pumped because we have an amazing guest here with us today, Elizabeth Sabillon. Such a beautiful name, by the way. And I actually feel like I know her because I've been listening to her podcast, and she is really passionate about mental health and faith and her journey, and she's been really vulnerable about her journey and singleness, and she's doing just some great things with her podcast, Beauty Marks Podcast. So I am just so honored to have you here today. And before we kind of jump into it, can you give us some background on you?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here. And I feel like I know a little bit about you in this small time that we've connected. And a little bit about myself is that, yes, my baby is Beauty Marks Podcast. I started in 2020 really with the mission to empower and encourage women and realize that we are more alike than we think. Mm-hmm. And just being able to share like people's stories, really passionate about that. I am a Latina, live in Orlando, Florida, really am a family person and love to just connect, hang out, find all the new spots locally. And I dance salsa, which I really enjoy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so since I've been following you, I've been watching you with salsa and how you just kind of went out and started going to salsa classes on your own and stuff. So next time I'm in Orlando, like I definitely need to schedule time and we need to go do salsa because I've been wanting to like dance and everything. Mm-hmm. I just don't even know where to go, but that sounds so fun.
Yes, honestly, it's like the best way to do something. Like I always wanted to add like some more fun in my life, and that was like the best way to start. It's also something that, because I know we're going to talk a little bit about this, it's like my own journey of singleness and just finding ways to connect with other people, get out of my comfort zone. And that was honestly a start of all of that. So I really enjoy it. And I'm actually like part of the team now. So I have a performance in December.
Gosh. I want to come in for this performance. That's awesome. And we're going to talk more about it. And I definitely want to take some salsa classes. But so today we really want to talk about moving forward from past relationships. And I've been listening to your podcast, and you've been really open about the challenges of moving on from a previous relationship. And you just have the most comforting voice too, by the way. You just have like such a comfort about you. And so like I said, you've opened up about a past relationship that you were in and how you actually decided to end the relationship, but that doesn't make it like any easier. So can you share a little bit about that experience?
Definitely. I think that when people say like breakups, like one person gets it worse, I think that no matter if you broke up, like you were the one that initiated the breakup or you were broken up with, it's still very painful.
Yes.
I was in a long-term 7-year relationship, but it was toxic. So it was not a healthy relationship. And that was so hard to let go because I had invested so much time, years, and I was like, this is the person, this is my person. And even the way that we met, I just felt like everything, stars aligned and everything. But at the end of the day, over time, I realized that that wasn't my person, and letting go was the hardest part, and seeing that like maybe this isn't my story. This is not the person for me. And I think that can be painful because you have you have invested this much time and you have told yourself like maybe there's not if it's not this person, then it's nobody else.
Right. And I understand that because I was in a relationship for, I think it was like 8 to 9 years, on and off throughout my
Mm-hmm.
20s. And when you invest that much time with someone, you feel like, okay, now we have to make this work.
Yeah.
And even if it's not working, it's kind of hard to bring yourself to the point that, okay, there can be a life without this person.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing like you aren't married. So not that you're ever like stuck in a marriage, but
Mm-hmm.
like if it's not right for you, maybe you do need to reevaluate, and it's okay to think about and move on from that. So what advice would you give to someone that might have been in a long relationship, or maybe they did go through a breakup already, but they're having a hard time letting go from that?
I think when you start realizing that the relationship is affecting your life and it's affecting your relationships, your health, that's kind of where I was at, of realizing like, this is not good for me.
Right.
I think that other people can tell you, and people would tell me like, Liz, like you're going to know when it's time to let go. Like you're going to know, like I can
Yeah.
tell you all these things. But I feel like for me, I came to the point that I started getting really, really depressed. My body actually was kind of shutting down. I was getting migraines all the time because of just the stress, the pressure, and we never correlate one thing with the other. We're like, oh no, like breakups are like, it sucks, but like everyone goes through them. But like literally breakups affect you from the inside out.
Yes.
And like when they talk about heartbreak, it's like you can actually sometimes feel that and just see how it affects you, you know, like it's like someone dying, but they're still
Yes.
living, and you have to just kind of like forget about them the next day. And that process is really painful. So I would say if you are first questioning if that is not for you, I feel like that is already a yellow flag, you know, for you to start looking into like, is this person adding to my life? Is this person someone that is helping me become a better person? Or is it changing who I am fully? Like, am I not liking who I am? And I feel like I was at that point that I was not feeling great. And I also wasn't loving who I was becoming. I was becoming a different person that I didn't even realize or recognize.
Yeah. And I think that's so important when you are in a relationship for a long time and your body starts signaling that this isn't right for you, and you're filled with stress and anxiety and worry all the time. That is a sign. That's definitely a sign that maybe this isn't the right relationship for you. And that can a lot of times be really scary to walk away from. But just from experience, once you finally just decide and move forward, I don't know about you, but I have felt so much more like joy after finally letting go and stepping into like where I felt like God was calling me, rather than staying in a place that I knew like my body was telling me
like, this is not it.
Yeah, it's not it, and it's time to move forward. So I guess what advice, you talked about like grieving, and it's so true. Like we don't realize how much breakups can be like a death, where they're still out there in the world, but we have to figure out how to reevaluate our lives and like restart kind of without this person. So what advice would you give to people for grieving the relationship?
I think that everybody's a little different. I think when I had experience, we had like a lot of things together. Like we worked together at the time. We went to the same church. It was like really messy.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I had to make decisions that were like for my best interest. So like having to like take some time away, you know, had to kind of step back and really kind of build my confidence again, have my community, because I had lost that along the way. I had lost my friendships. I had lost a lot of things that were meaningful to me. But like at the end, I'm like, who's here? Like, who do I have? Because that relationship was really isolating for me. And so once I got out of that relationship, I realized like the process that I had to go to was like to go to therapy. And honestly, that was life-changing because I had a lot of unhealed things within myself. I feel like as Christians, you know, we pray and we ask God to like heal us and work in our hearts and everything. But I think that the other side of that, and why I'm a big like mental health advocate, is because I see that we also have to be an active participant in our healing. So that means that like going to therapy, if you need to work on those things, maybe you need to educate yourself on relationships and just like maybe some trauma that you have unhealed. And that was kind of the process of grieving that I had to go through. But like, I feel like there's always two paths. Like some people, they kind of don't process and just kind of numb it. And for me, it was more like I needed to be practical in that part, but it still was painful. And even when sometimes making the right decision for you, it still doesn't always feel like the right decision. Right. But like how you said, I feel like I've seen my life now as like that was the best thing that could have happened. And even though it was so painful in that moment, like the life I've created now and who I've become, I feel like I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you're right where it is so important to, if you need, well, it is such a big step, like moving on from a past relationship. And it's so important to take the time to grieve and process. And if you, like, I highly recommend, going to therapy, going to talk to someone, or just a good friend or a pastor or a counselor, whatever it is, like inviting them in and helping you walk through that. And you also mentioned like faith and how sometimes that can cause people to not like seek the help they need and stuff like that. And I've also realized that one thing that I struggled with was the difference between having this set faith that this relationship is going to work out no matter what, and then also having this idea of what the relationship could look like one day, so you hang on to that, versus, okay, what's actually like taking place. Yeah. And I think that was a huge wake-up call for me in some of the relationships that I was in, was like, okay, I keep holding on to this like dream and this vision, but what's actually taking place? And that really helped me because, again, we can have this strong faith, which is good, but also we need to make sure that we are like in touch with what is actually happening. Yeah. And again, like, go ahead.
No, it's like the hope, like the false hope of their potential and like who they will become. Yes. And in church, like I met my ex at the time was on the worship team. And so I was like, ooh, like I have this like godly relationship,
He can sing,
like we're this power couple. And I realized over time that yes, there's some foundational things. And if those are part of your values of like someone of same faith and all of that, but it's really about character and people's, what they show you. So their fruits. So it's like, who are they right now? And I think like that question was always like, if I was to marry him right now, like just how he is, not the person that I believe that he will become, is that the person that I want to be with and I can see myself with? And is that what God wants? Like, or is that just me? Because I'm trying to make it happen for me. Right. And that was hard for me to like let that go because I'm like, no, but this was the perfect, what I thought was the perfect relationship. But I feel like, and also that part of like surrendering my will of being like, no, like I think I'm trying to be God and make this work.
Yeah. When you realize you're trying to be leader of your life, you're trying to be God. That's a messy area. And you talked about how the fruits, examine their fruit. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was in a situationship. I'll call it a situationship. And it only lasted a month or two, but he could recite scripture. He knew the Bible. Like, that's attractive. Yeah. But quickly I found out there wasn't fruit being produced, and it was actually bad fruit. And that is such good advice for anyone listening. Like, examine their fruit. If you're not sure of someone, are they, when people are around them, are they helping people or are they hurting people? Are people getting better by being around them, or are they getting worse? That is such a good indicator on whether this person is right for you or not. And in dating, I just think that's so important.
Yeah, we never really think about that. We always think like we have, like, because we also see ourselves and we try to be like, people are like us, but it's like, that's not each of us are individuals, and you don't have powers to change anybody
Right.
else or to make them be anybody else than who they really are. Like, we all are someone at our core. And especially if they don't have that self, like, openness to become self-aware, or they're actually trying to get better, then it's probably not going to change at all.
Right. Exactly. So you also talk some about on your show about women or men too. It happens both ways, like begging for their partner, well, their ex back. And I see this a lot too, where people have a really hard time like letting go and stepping forward. And you also talk about you're a fan of the black button.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that and some advice there? If for anyone that may be caught in a situation where you find yourself begging for the person back and you just don't want to face the truth that the relationship's ended.
Yeah. When I think back to those texts that I would send or those calls, I'm like, oh no, like that's so embarrassing. Like, can we just delete that chapter? That would be great. Because like, I think now, because of what I've learned and everything, I realized that I just didn't see my value, and I didn't see how like I was supposed to be treated. I hadn't been in a healthy relationship, and I thought that was normal. So I thought that the back and forth, the hot and cold, like how you said, being an on and off relationship, like you kind of think it's like a game. Like, you end up being literally in a game that it's like, okay, I want you now, no I don't. And then like you kind of feel like someone wanting you is like a definition of love, when it's like, no, love is so much more than you trying to convince someone. Like I can't see myself doing that, but in those positions of like trying to hold on, it was really hurting me and affecting me, because it was breaking down of who I was. I'm like, I will literally do anything if you can just like be with me, like, please, like, I'll change whatever. And even though I was the one that should ask those things and have some requirements for the person, but I think all in all, I think when I think back to that part, it was really me trying to get my way and what I wanted. And so now with the whole block button, I feel like through therapy, I realized some things of like having no contact was the best thing, because after a breakup, your heart doesn't know to be like, okay, this person is bad for me. Like, you still love the person and you still care about them. You had some good memories and some bad memories. So there's still that connection. So for you to then continuously string them along, in my opinion, is just hurting you in the long term. And that's when situationships happen, friends, like, it just makes things really ugly. So for me, I decided that what was best for me to like end the cycle, because I was in a cycle for years, like of like just back in the same and back, was to end contact and communication and to protect my heart. And that meant blocking. And I was seen as the villain for a very long time, because it's like, wow, how can you do this after so many years? But for me, I realized that that's what I needed to move forward, because then that also helped me to not be looking at their stuff, seeing what they're doing, if they're good or bad. It's just disconnecting myself and being able to like feel like and process everything. And then if I was to see them one day, then it's like we're cordial, but I don't have all this like, so why were you here? Oh, I saw you doing this. And like, oh, did you move on? Like, I feel like that just really prolongs your healing. And in my opinion, friends with your ex, unless I feel like it's a cordial, very respectful understanding, it's very difficult to be friends with your ex. Do you think that people can be friends with their ex?
No, I don't think that people can be friends with their ex. I just think it clouds things. And like you said, it prolongs the moving on process. And it just makes it so it's just all these memories start coming up, and then it clouds your judgment. And then you kind of find yourself in a place of limbo. I've been there before too, where it's like, what is this? Should I move on? Are we going to get back together? What does this look like? And for me, you talked about finding value like in yourself, in your own identity. And what's been so important for me in moving on from my past relationship was really taking time, and I talk about it a lot this season, taking a break from dating, because I knew I know that how God sees me, but I want to know that for myself. And that has just been so important in figuring out, like, who am I on my own?
Yeah.
And knowing that I am cherished by God and that He wants the best for us too. So what would be your advice for someone who may be struggling with identity or struggling with seeing value in themselves? Like, what advice would you have for them to, find value?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's like you finding that value, you knowing your value in God. I think you understanding how He sees you, because sometimes we take like what the world says about us and we're like, this is who I am, or like based on who we are, who we're with, then that puts us as a label, when in reality it's like, no, it's first what God has to say about us. And I love what you said about like you had to see that for yourself. And sometimes when you come out of a relationship, you are a little beat up and you don't feel your best. And I had to really get in community with people that like were telling me like, Liz, you're loved. Like, I love you. I'm here for you. Like, this is how I see you. And that helped me also translate that to myself. Like, like I am strong. Like I can get through this. Like I've been through some hard things before and I will get through this again. Like I have support system. Like when I had those days that were really, really hard that I had to call a friend and like, this happened. And just realizing that like you having those people to sometimes build you up and encourage you is so important. And then that translates into, like for me, when I was going through like my healing journey, it's like realizing those things of how I was speaking to myself and what I was saying to myself. And I'm like, I have a lot of negative self-talk and I have a lot of like self-sabotaging things that I'm doing to myself. And I feel like that's something else to pinpoint and just pay attention to, because sometimes you're literally in your head most of the time.
Right.
And you're saying these things that are false. They're lies. And because you're going through a hard season in your life, you kind of take that as truth, when it's like, no, what does God say about me? And like He says, I'm loved, I'm redeemed, I'm not just broken. Like He is gonna heal my heart. Like He has the best in store for me. Like I'm His daughter. And that process takes some time. And like how you said, I went through like with taking time off dating. I feel like for me personally, I decided that I was going to take some time off dating. And for like a year and a half, it was just about myself. It was just about me healing, working on myself, working through my trauma, and like working through that, because I knew that if I was going to date someone, it was going to come from loneliness and it was going to come from me feeling like, okay, I need you to feel this, because right now I'm sad. I don't feel good about myself. So like you affirm me, or like you tell me who I am. And like I had been in that cycle for so many years that I'm like, no, I want to do things differently. Like supposedly like my way is not working. So like let me try something else. And that was the path that I took. And it is the hardest thing I have ever done, because I say that it's so easy to be in a relationship, in my opinion. You can start talking to someone and you can date and that's it. But you're putting yourself at risk if you don't have those standards, if you're not coming from a good place of, I feel like I'm good, like you're just an addition, not like you're my whole life. And so that's kind of been my journey.
And I love this conversation. I didn't even know we were gonna go this direction, but I have some friends that have just got out of relationships and they feel so pressured by their family and friends. Like, when are you dating again? Why aren't you why are you waiting around? Like, what are you doing? And people feel so pressured to just immediately go seek another relationship after a breakup. And like you said, it's so important to really find identity in yourself, to turn to God, to heal, and to fully process things. Because what we don't want to happen is to jump into another relationship and have repeated behavioral cycles from the last one. And also what I have found is if we are not rooted in God and who we are in ourselves and our identity, we can end up making that other person our idol that we're with. And I did that for a long time where it's so easy to make the person that you're dating like your idol or your God, when that is not the case. And that's so much pressure to put on someone else. Like that's totally unfair for us to put on someone else. And also as far as healing and taking time to move forward and taking time for yourself, if we don't take that time, it can also, if we have like trust issues, if you were in a toxic relationship, if the relationship ended really bad or you were cheated
Mm-hmm.
on or something, if we don't take the time to really process that and heal from that, it can also pop up in later relationships where we're like super controlling or
Mm-hmm.
super jealous, or
Yeah.
we really don't trust someone because of all the things that happened in our past. So I'm a firm believer that it's so important to take time for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and to just really like work on healing so we can get better and grow from the past relationships that were good and that were bad.
Because we learn, like, those are all lessons. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when we see them as like it was painful in the moment, but like you didn't know what, like, you didn't know what you known today in that relationship. So it's like having grace with yourself and being like, okay, I don't
Yeah.
want to repeat these patterns, so what can I do to better myself?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the best
Yeah.
for yourself, so that you can like make choices that are like going with your values, and you
Mhm.
feel like, wow, I didn't repeat the same cycle. Like, I used to react a certain way, but now I don't. Like, I feel better,
Right.
and you have that foundation.
Yeah. So, okay, again, back to the salsa and everything, and you
Mm-hmm.
talked about your community of people around you. For someone that may not have that, maybe
Mm-hmm.
someone's listening that doesn't have anyone in their life that they feel is encouraging or they can go to. I think it's so cool that you like step out and do things on your own. So, what advice do you have for people that are looking, or people that want to go out and do things on their own and want to build community, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're scared to do it on their own?
Mm-hmm. No, it's very scary because it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's getting out of your comfort zone. It's saying like, this is what I've been doing, and here I feel safe. And now, like, let me just throw myself. Like, I remember the first time, like this year, I had told myself, like, okay, Liz, like, you've been working on yourself, but now you have to like step out of your comfort zone. Because I feel like I was in protective mode of like
Yep.
trying to feel safe. And then I was like, okay, I want to like live my life. Like, I want to like
Right.
enjoy. Like, I've been through some stuff. We all have been through some stuff, but it's like I don't want to stay there. Like, I want to continue moving forward. And it really didn't even come with the intention of, oh, I'm going to go out and like find guys. Like, it was
Right.
genuinely like, I want to do something different and like for myself. So I've always been one to like, do my stuff by myself, like go shopping and like nails and like that kind of thing. But then I started like doing the movies and like going to the movie theater by myself, and then going for walks at the park. And I was like,
Yeah.
like this would be nice, like a Starbucks, and like going to walk at Disney Springs, which is like a spot here, and just going out like more by myself and feeling comfortable and being
Right.
like, this isn't that weird. Like,
No.
this isn't that weird. Like, other people, like, who knows if they're by themselves. And then it led to me going to my first John Mayer concert by myself. I had
That's
missed
so
the
fun.
one. Yes, literally, I had missed the one in Orlando, and I was in Atlanta visiting family. And I'm like, I'm going to go see John Mayer. Like, I love his new album. I'm going to go. And I literally went by myself. And I was like, everyone's looking at me. Like,
Yeah.
everyone knows I'm by myself. But it was literally like,
That's
I
so cool.
enjoyed music
Yep.
with other people. Like, we were just sitting by each other and like making small talk. And I was like, this is fun. Like,
Yes.
I can do this. Like, this is not like, we were told that like, until we meet someone, then it's like, then you'll be able to do all these fun
No.
things. But I feel like with myself, I have like become confident and like, I can do that. I make like a list of like places that I want to go. And of course, if there's a friend that's available, I'll invite and be like,
Yeah.
hey, I would love to go here. But if not, I'm like, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And my friends tell me like, dang, like you always beat me to the location. I'm like, I mean, you told me that like 3 months ago and I
Yep.
wanted to go, so I'm going to go. So we can go together later,
Mhm.
So I feel like I built up that confidence with little things. So like, if maybe that's way out of your comfort zone, it's doing those small things of like going shopping by yourself. Some people feel very uncomfortable with that, like going to do like, go to the coffee shop and work on something, like those little things to build up that muscle. And then I
Yeah.
feel like then eventually you can go to bigger things. There's people that travel by themselves. I'm actually going on my first solo trip next week.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, it's like,
Where are you
I would say a
going?
work trip. LA, like LA,
Oh,
Orange
cool.
County.
Okay.
Yeah. So I already have like some tours set up. I have
Yeah.
like some things that I'm gonna do, and I'm like, I will be fine. Like, I got this,
Yes.
So it's like, building up of that. And same with salsa. That was like the best thing to start really feeling comfortable. After the pandemic, I also felt like very like isolated because like we weren't really allowed to go places and all of that. So that also helped me to like get out of my comfort zone and meet new people and meet single people, because that was
Right.
something else that I had been around a lot of people in relationships, married. And so then that I feel like starts messing with you, because then
Right.
you're like, I'm the only one in this room that's single. I'm
Yeah.
the only, like everybody has their couple, and then I'm literally at the end of the table and I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
guys. So I needed to really get out of my comfort zone to meet single people, that
Yeah.
meet like single women that enjoy the same, that can enjoy same things that I can go out with. And then it also feels like I'm not missing out. I'm not missing out on anything.
Right.
So,
And it's so fun when you actually step out and start doing things on your own. You do actually start really enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
And if anyone is scared to do anything on their own, like go out and do it. Because now, even since I joined a church by myself and everything, like I enjoy that time so much that I have on Sundays and in different classes and meeting different people. And I know one day, like when I have a family and stuff and I'm busy and all that, I'll look back and I'll probably miss doing those things on my own, and even just going on walks by yourself. And it's so important, even if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, like we should be doing things on our own sometimes. Like we still are our own person, and we have to be okay being friends with ourselves and loving ourselves and having time for ourselves. I think that's just healthy for any future season of life that we're in. And things like salsa, though, even just dancing by yourself, like in your healing season at home, like blaring music, dancing. Like I can't tell you how often I do that at home.
That is therapeutic.
It is. And you just feel so much better. So look, if you're having a bad day and you are like missing someone or in your feelings, like blast some music on and dance. Because it just makes you feel so much better.
It really does. Like just like, or just getting out of your normal. So it's like if you feel in your head about stuff, like especially when you're going through a breakup, like go out for a walk, go do something different, go watch something, go like talk to someone, listen to podcasts. Like I feel like that helps like to get out of that that little rut,
Yeah, and it's almost like it's such a when you're moving on from a relationship and you're having that time for yourself, it's such a precious time. Like you said, don't wait, for this future state to be happy or to do the things you want, because when you're in this healing time, it is sad and you're letting go of a lot. And a lot is coming out and there's a lot of healing happening, but it's also such a precious time, because I don't know if you feel the same way, but in those times, I feel the Lord so close to me. And just knowing that he's there comforting us and he's with us every step of the way. Whenever I see someone else going through that, I'm just like, oh, it's such a hard time, that one of the hardest things you'll go through, but also such a healing time and beautiful time also.
Yeah, it teaches you so much. I feel like in those moments, like you feel so much closer to God, because literally you're like, God, like I don't know how I'm gonna get through this.
Right.
Like,
and you have no choice but to rely on him.
Yeah. And those are the things that it's like we don't understand, because like that's the question most people ask, like why do bad things happen? And if I was to like choose that stuff, clearly I would not have chosen certain things that have happened in my life, but I have gained so much from those hard seasons. Like God literally redeems those painful things and those painful seasons. And even the whole concept of my podcast is really about like beauty marks, like how all our marks in life and hard times, like God redeems them. And then eventually we look back at them and we're like, wow, like that's a part of my story, but like it doesn't define my whole story. So even if you're going through a breakup, it's like you will get through this and you will see how like the best things can come from this hard time. And I know it doesn't make sense, but I promise you it all works out, in the end.
And I think that's so good, because yes, you may feel like you have no idea how you're going to move forward. You may feel so heartbroken. You may feel completely lost without this person, but I'm a living testimony. You're a living testimony to the fact that when we cling to God in that time, when we seek him first, and when we just have that time alone with God, he does heal you. He does heal your heart. He does heal your soul. He does redeem you. And he transforms us and he anoints us. And then one day we wake up and all of a sudden we're healing and we're growing and we're changing and we're in this spot where I'm getting chills right now, but you just feel so much more alive and you're stronger and you're better than you were before. And you made it. Like, you made it out of that season, but it's almost like you then look back and you're like, wow, that was necessary for me to get to where I'm at right now and for where I'm going.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, well, I've just had such a great time talking with you today, and I just love your story and how vulnerable you are on your podcast and Beauty Marks podcast. Definitely, I encourage everyone to follow Elizabeth Sabillon on Instagram and on her podcast, because like I said, you just have this comforting voice and this comforting spirit I think God has blessed you with. And whenever I listen to you, I just feel comforted and heard, and I just love everything that you're doing, and I'm just encouraged to have you here. So
no, thank you, Samantha. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I love how you're giving hope to like the single season, and it's like you're in the best season of your life. Like you're not missing out. Yep. And I completely agree. And I hope that someone that is going through that, they see that within us. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. And we end every one of our episodes with 3 affirmations. So everyone knows by now the 3. Well, if you haven't listened to the show before, then you don't. But I really believe in the power of affirmations and declarations and how they really change us and fill us up. So if everyone wants to place their hand over your heart, and you can repeat after me. I am not alone. I am loved and cherished by the Father, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our episode, and make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe if you have not already. This is how we grow. This is how we reach more people. Share with your single friend, because I know that this episode specifically will encourage them. And Elizabeth, where can any of our listeners find you?
So yeah, on social media, you can follow me at Elizabeth Sabby. That's my personal page, and I post like podcast episodes on there, as well as Beauty Marks podcast on Apple and Spotify and wherever you stream podcasts, and also on TikTok. I am on Beauty Marks podcast. And so if you want to check out what we're doing and events in the local area of women's events, you can check it out there.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, and I hope to hear from you on this episode, what you learned, any feedback. So make sure to subscribe, to like, to forward to a single friend, and to do all the things, to rate 5-star rating, because I know you want to give me a 5-star rating. Again, this is how we grow the podcast. This is how we reach more people. So I would love to hear from you, and also any, ideas that you have for future episodes. I would love to get to know what you are looking for. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.